Good evening. My name is Isabel Stone, and I was the recipient of the Whitaker-Hellwig Fellowship in Language and Foreign Policy for my internship with the State Department in Arlington, Virginia. I am a senior double majoring in Spanish and International Relations. And yes, that is an oil painting of Benjamin Franklin wearing sunglasses. It is owned by the State Department. They have a bit of an obsession with him. So the U.S. State Department is the bureau that leads the country in foreign affairs and advises the president on foreign policy. Its employees that work in consulates and embassies, the foreign service officers, are the face and voice of the United States overseas. And they not only represent our interests abroad, but also implement policies. But before sending them out there to represent our country, they need to be trained. And we send them to the Foreign Service Institute. This is the training branch of the State Department. And of their 4 largest schools, I interned in the School of Language Studies. As a Spanish and International Relations major, this is the perfect combination of my interest and my studies. I've been looking at the State Department as a possible career path for many years, and it was when I was looking at their webpage that I actually discovered the internship. The 2 divisions that I mainly worked in were the Distance Language Learning and Telecommunications divisions. And they were created in order to provide services to the foreign service officers who are posted overseas and unable to make it back to the U.S. for language classes. So they have mentors in 15 different languages that meet with students once a week via video chat and otherwise provide language materials in an entirely electronic environment. I interacted largely with 3 groups of people during my time in DC. I worked with the administrators of the Distance Language Learning and Telecommunications divisions in order to support the mentors, all of whom were non-native English speakers, in order to check on the progress and improve the experience of the foreign service officers they were teaching. I worked on many projects. I wasn't really brought on to hire one, but because of my experience in language and other writing and technological aspects. So I worked on the design and function of curriculum pages, on researching recording and virtual classroom programs, as well as compiling statistics for beginning and end of semester mentor performance reviews. I sat in on recruitment reviews for 3 new distance language learning mentors and was able to contribute my opinions at the end. I contributed also to marketing for distance language learning through sending targeted emails to every foreign service officer who's gone to the Foreign Service Institute in the last 5 years, and then aided mentors with whatever else they needed. So the distance language learning and telecommunications divisions exist because of developments in technology. And as technology continues to advance, so too do the tools available for language learning. So my main projects were associated with researching what those tools were and how they could be implemented into the language learning process. So I worked on researching and then writing instructions for recording devices and programs that foreign service officers could use to record their oral assignments, their weekly oral assignments to submit to their mentors, as well as working with virtual flashcards through a fairly popular site called Quizlet, using those, the accounts that the distance language program had and attaching links, level and language appropriate links onto all of the mentor pages. Both of these then also contributed to my largest project, the virtual classrooms. This was a program that I researched that offered an easy way for mentors to create and then distribute their weekly lessons. Instead of having a whole list of links and attachments and resources and tools kind of spread across all of their pages, they could compile everything related to the weekly lesson into one cohesive format. So I created accounts for all 15 of the languages and templates in each of those accounts, as well as written instructions on how to then further edit those. I conducted a training session with the 3 languages that agreed to pilot the program. The Spanish mentors were a little wary about the process, so I then held more in-depth discussion with them using my best technical Spanish. I don't know a lot of technology-related Spanish, but we all tried our best. As a result, the curriculum pages are more standardized, efficient, user-friendly, and mobile responsive. This is particularly important because Foreign Service officers are incredibly busy. So when the language learning process is more simplified, they are more likely to successfully complete their language courses. Additionally, this was supposed to be a cool GIF, but it's not really working. The virtual classrooms that I set up are being used successfully and plan to continue into the next semester. And that's just kind of the banner of one of them. I learned a lot during my time. One such thing that I learned was basic HTML programming. I knew nothing about computers, programming at all, but I now have a fairly thorough understanding that I hope to one day build off of. I also learned about the use of Spanish in a professional rather than academic environment, not just through working with mentors, but also through observing their lessons with Foreign Service officers, because the way the classes are set up, the lessons are very focused on the language and vocabulary that is necessary for Foreign Service officers to perform their jobs overseas. I also got to sit in on a 2-week lecture series on the history of U.S. and Latin American relations, as well as some lectures by an ambassador on current U.S.-Mexican political and economic ties. Professionally, this was my very first experience in a professional office setting. So I learned a lot about office interactions, including how to work mostly by myself, but on projects that I would then report to my supervisor about. Sitting in and contributing on weekly meetings, more importantly, when to ask for help, because coding, again, I knew nothing. I didn't want to annoy them too much though, and how to communicate with non-native English speakers in a professional environment when I didn't speak their language. The U.S. State Department, like the fellowship, also offers a lot of opportunities for career development. They're really concerned with making sure that their interns knew what the State Department was, what it offered, what its mission is, and the related careers not only within the department, but related in a civilian context. They also offered a lot of lunches where I could talk with anywhere with their current employees, from ambassadors to former interns, on their experiences with the State Department, how they got their positions, their recommendations for interns, and where they saw themselves going. So coming out of all of this, I just left even more confident than I had been before that this is the environment that I would one day like to work in with the State Department, hopefully as a Foreign Service officer. To that end, I'm currently using my connections in DC to apply to jobs out there to gain experience while I consider other options, including graduate school, possibly military service. The fellowship also allowed me the opportunity to live in the heart of DC. I was no more than a 15-minute walk away from the Capitol building, 10 minutes from Union Station, and I was living with 7 other politically engaged interns during the 2016 presidential elections. It was a 3-bedroom house. Things got a little tense sometimes. So without the fellowship, I wouldn't have truly been able to experience the environment and culture of DC. So to wrap things up, I would like to say thanks to my sponsors, Dr. Gordon Whitaker with the class of 65 and Dr. Robert Hellwig of the class of 67, my faculty sponsor, Michael Mosier, my site supervisor, Kristen Mulligan-Walters, and my family for their continued support.